Here's the rewritten version of your story, keeping the plot, context, and details intact while adjusting the narrative to a natural, engaging American English style. The character names have been changed, highlighted in bold, and the story has been streamlined to fit a 2,000, 4,000 word range, approximately 2,500 words here. I've ensured a clear, satisfying ending and enhanced the flow for readability and suspense. Timestamps and channel references have been removed for a seamless narrative. "Don't you want to try the coffee I brewed just for you, sweetheart?" my husband Daniel asked, his lips curling into a smile that didn't quite touch his eyes. I sat at my sister-in-law Sophie's polished dining table in her Nashville home, where our family gathered each month for brunch. The coffee cup in front of me gave off a strange, almost metallic scent that twisted my stomach into knots. My name is Emma, and at 29, I never thought I'd find myself wondering if my own husband was trying to poison me. But after 3 years of marriage and too many accidental bouts of sickness, I'd learned to stay on guard, especially around Sophie. She had a knack for staging little disasters that left me ill or embarrassed, always hiding behind that same innocent grin Daniel wore now. "How sweet of you," I replied, forcing a smile as my mind spun. The aroma drifting from the cup was unlike any coffee I'd ever smelled. It reminded me of the time last month when I'd landed in urgent care after sipping tea at Sophie's house. The doctors couldn't pin down what was wrong, and Sophie had sworn she'd brewed it the same way she always did for herself. Across the table, Sophie watched me closely, her spoon lazily stirring her own untouched coffee. "Daniel's turned into quite the barista," she said with a smirk. "He's been perfecting his techniques just for you." The way she lingered on, "for you," sent a shiver racing down my spine. I'd noticed Daniel spending more time at Sophie's lately, claiming they were planning a surprise for our anniversary. But something felt wrong. The hushed conversations that cut off when I walked in, the odd texts I'd glimpsed on his phone, and now this coffee with its eerie smell. I lifted the cup, pretending to sip while watching their faces. Daniel and Sophie exchanged a fleeting look that cemented my suspicions. Feigning a distraction, I checked my phone and stood abruptly. "Oh, shoot, I've got a work call." "Sophie, mind if I use your study?" As I passed her seat, I stumbled, swapping our coffee cups in the chaos of studying myself. "I'm so sorry," I exclaimed, straightening up. "I'm such a klutz." Sophie waved it off with a stiff smile. "Just don't break anything in there." I nodded and hurried off, my pulse hammering. From the study doorway, I could still see them at the table. Now it was a waiting game. I watched as Sophie raised the coffee to her lips, my stomach tightening. Part of me wanted to shout a warning, but I needed the truth. I'd spent too many nights in ERs, too many hours doubled over in pain, always after eating with them. It hadn't always been like this. When I met Daniel at a friend's wedding in Nashville 3 years ago, he was warm and charming. Sophie had seemed friendly too, pulling me into family events and even helping plan our wedding. But looking back, the signs were there, her accidental spills on my dress at big occasions, the extra spice in my food when she cooked. It started small, a queasy stomach here, a mild rash there. Daniel always had an excuse. Maybe it's something you ate earlier, or you're probably catching a bug. But the pattern grew impossible to ignore. The worst came 2 months ago when I was hospitalized after breakfast at their place. Doctors found something odd in my system, but Daniel convinced everyone it was expired meds I'd taken. I gripped the door frame as Sophie took another sip. Daniel tapped away at his phone, oblivious. My own cup sat cold where I'd left it, that metallic tang still haunting my nose. Then I saw it, a tremor in Sophie's hand. She set the cup down, her face paling. "Daniel," she said, her voice quaking, "something's wrong." He looked up, confusion shifting to dread as he realized which cup she held. He leapt up, his chair crashing backward. "Sophie, what's happening?" Her hands shook violently now. I feel," she staggered, clutching the table. "Daniel, what did you put in that coffee?" I stepped out, phone recording. He was at her side now, his face gray. "That wasn't supposed to be your cup," he whispered, but the quiet room carried his words. Sophie's eyes widened with terror and understanding. "Call an ambulance," she gasped, collapsing. "Please, I can't." I dialed 911, steady despite the chaos. "Emergency services, we need an ambulance at 1542 Maple Grove Drive. My sister-in-law's having a severe reaction to something in her coffee, conscious but trembling." As I spoke, Sophie's gaze met mine, her usual sharpness replaced by fear. "Emma, you switched, you knew." "The ambulance is on its way," the dispatcher said. "Stay on the line." Daniel grew frantic. "Sophie, what's happening?" "That wasn't supposed to, it wasn't meant for—" "Shut up, Daniel," she snapped through clenched teeth, fury briefly overriding her pain. "This is your fault. You said it'd just make her miss the board meeting. You swore it wouldn't be traced." My blood froze. The board meeting, my big pitch for a client account Sophie had been chasing at our rival firms. "The tea last month," I said, my voice calm, "and the breakfast 2 months ago, those weren't accidents, were they?" Sophie's face twisted as pain hit again. "The tea was supposed to keep you home for the Johnson pitch, but you went anyway. Daniel said we'd discredit you, make clients think you're unreliable." Sirens wailed outside. Daniel backed away. "Sophie, stop, you don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying," she hissed, words slurring. "We've been at this for months, since Emma started outshining me. You were supposed to make sure she drank it today." Paramedics rushed in, and I stepped aside, stopping the recording and emailing it to myself, then my lawyer. Daniel stood frozen as they loaded Sophie onto a stretcher. "I'll go with her," I told the medics firmly. "I want to ensure my sister-in-law gets proper care." I met Daniel's panic stare. "And I'm sure the doctors will want to know what was in that coffee." At Nashville General Hospital, the ER buzzed as doctors worked on Sophie. I sat in the waiting room, replaying her confession on my phone, her shaky voice, her wide-eyed fear. It was proof this wasn't just in my head. "Family of Sophie Carter," a nurse called. I stood, noting Daniel's absence. He'd muttered something about parking and vanished 20 minutes ago. "I'm her sister-in-law," I said, following her. "How is she?" "Stable," the nurse replied, her tone serious, "but we found toxins in her system. The doctor needs to talk to you about some odd blood work." Dr. Reynolds, a tall woman with graying hair and keen eyes, waited by Sophie's room. "Mrs. Walker, what happened before she got sick?" I pulled out my phone. "Listen to this first." I played the brunch recording, watching Dr. Reynolds's face shift from concern to shock. "This is grave," she said, jotting notes. "What we found isn't something that just ends up in coffee, it's deliberate." Just then, Daniel appeared down the hall, pale and sweating, clearly overhearing. "Emma," he began, stepping closer, "let me explain." "Stay back," Dr. Reynolds warned, hitting the nurse's call button. "Security to room 412. Daniel raised his hands. "It's a misunderstanding," Sophie was confused. "Really?" I said, pulling up texts I'd forwarded from his phone last week. "So these messages about keeping me out of commission for the Henderson pitch were just friendly chit-chat?" His face went white. "You went through my phone?" "After I found that weird bottle in your desk, yes." I turned to Dr. Reynolds. "I've been hospitalized 3 times in 6 months with unexplained symptoms. Can you check if they match what's in Sophie today?" "We'll run tests," she said, eyes narrowing. "Security will keep your husband here for questioning." 2 guards flanked Daniel, his polished mask cracking. "Sophie and we just wanted you to slow down. You were taking all the big clients. Sophie said we'd make you rest by poisoning me." I cut in, voice steady despite my shaking hands. "How long? Was it you at the Christmas party too?" His silence answered everything. Through the window, Sophie lay hooked to monitors, her bravado replaced by dread. "Detective Lopez is coming," Dr. Reynolds said softly. "She'll want statements." I nodded, a strange calm settling in. The truth was breaking free. Detective Lopez, a seasoned domestic abuse expert, arrived within the hour, her presence filling the sterile hallway. She listened to the brunch recording and scanned the texts. "Mrs. Walker, you mentioned past hospitalizations. Tell me more." I opened a document on my phone I'd kept for months. February, after dinner at Sophie's, stomach pain and dizziness. April, the tea incident. June, after breakfast with them. Each time, symptoms were close but varied. Doctors couldn't figure it out. Her eyes sharpened as she studied my log. "You've been tracking this?" Since I saw the pattern, I said, pulling a second phone from my purse. "I started carrying this backup, recorded them when I could. They're vague, but listen." In one clip, Sophie's voice rang clear. "The Henderson account's worth millions, Daniel. We can't let her ruin it. Stick to the plan. A few sick days will do." Daniel replied, "I've got something stronger this time. She won't make it to the pitch." Detective Lopez's jaw tightened. Through the window, Sophie sat up in bed, her confidence gone. "We're running tox screens," the detective said. "Dr. Reynolds found unnatural substances. We'll need home samples too." Down the hall, Daniel argued with guards, voice desperate. "I need to talk to my wife. Emma, we were protecting you." Detective Lopez stepped in. "Mr. Walker, you're digging a deeper hole. We've got premeditated evidence." He laughed hollowly. "We just wanted to slow her down. She was killing herself with work." Sophie said a break would help by poisoning her. The detective snapped. "That's attempted murder." Daniel's face crumpled. "Murder? No, we didn't mean. Then what was the coffee supposed to do?" I asked calmly. His silence was deafening. Dr. Reynolds entered Sophie's room, tablet in hand, expression grim. "Toxicology shows high levels of a compound used in drug testing, not public access stuff." Sophie paled. "Impossible," she muttered. Daniel said it was mild like Emma's past 6 months. Detective Lopez cut in. Another officer arrived with an evidence bag, bottles and notes from Daniel's desk at Carter Marketing. My knees buckled as I saw their plan's depth. "You tracked it like an experiment?" I said. Sophie's voice shook. "We had to see what worked. You kept showing up anyway." "So you upped the doses," Detective Lopez concluded. "Did you know these could kill at higher levels?" Silence fell. Daniel slumped in the hall, head in hands. "The Henderson account," I said, pieces locking together. "It wasn't just the pitch. She wanted me gone because they wanted me as lead." Sophie's face twisted. "You ruined everything I built, years of work, and suddenly everyone picks you." Daniel said he'd fix it. "By killing me?" The words hung heavy. "We weren't," Sophie began, but Dr. Reynolds interrupted. "Today's coffee dose was far higher than your past samples, Mrs. Walker. If you'd drunk it, it could have been fatal." Detective Lopez turned to her officer. "Get warrants for their homes and offices. Trace these bottle source." Sophie sank back, defeated. "It wasn't supposed to go this far," Daniel kept saying. "One more try." I stepped closer. "Every time I was sick, every missed meeting you watched, took notes." "What does that make you?" Silence swallowed the room. Outside, Daniel was cuffed, rights red. "Detective," I said, turning from Sophie, "I'm ready to give my statement." The trial dragged on for 3 weeks, feeling like decades. I sat in court daily, watching the prosecution dismantle Daniel and Sophie. The evidence was airtight, bottles from Daniel's office, their meticulous logs, recordings, texts. Sophie, once poised and sharp, shrank in her chair. Daniel wouldn't meet my eyes, staring at the floor as experts detailed the poison's lethal potential. Dr. Reynolds' analysis showed their escalating doses, proving intent. A pharma rep confirmed Daniel stole the compounds via a college buddy. This wasn't just sabotage, the prosecutor declared. It was a calculated attempt to kill Mrs. Walker. Guilty verdicts came. Attempted murder, conspiracy. The judge's voice boomed. Such premeditated acts against family demand the harshest penalty. As they were led away in cuffs, I felt only relief, no joy. Greed and envy had warped people I'd trusted into strangers. A year later, I stood at the Nashville Business Leaders Conference, delivering the keynote. The irony stung. This was the success Sophie fought to steal. The Henderson account had snowballed into more clients, cementing me as a top marketer. Success isn't just talent or effort, I told the crowd. It's integrity, trust. Sometimes threats come from those closest, but overcoming them makes us stronger. Afterward, a young woman asked how I stayed composed. I controlled what I could, gathered proof, trusted my gut, and didn't let fear win. That night, Henderson renewed our contract for 3 years. I smiled, recalling that brunch. If I hadn't acted, I'd be gone. A paper mentioned Daniel and Sophie's prison terms. I skipped it, focusing on my next project. Revenge wasn't victory, thriving was. I'd exposed their poison, faced them down, and built a future they couldn't touch.